Well guys, it is week 6 of pumpkin recipes. And I promise, this is my last pumpkin one. I am done, I'm over pumpkin, finished. So today was supposed to be a special video because my friend wanted to make a pumpkin cheesecake with me. Unfortunately, she got sick, then her husband got sick, and now their kiddo is sick. So she can't come and be here with me today, but that's okay. We have plans to do a Christmas one together, so that'll come later. But I'm still gonna make the cheesecake because I already have everything for it. And I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I am gonna be doing a maple bourbon pumpkin cheesecake, and it is gonna be fantastic. And then I'm gonna top it off with just a little bit of a maple bourbon sauce. So we have a lot to do today. This video is probably gonna be a little bit long. So let's get baking.
All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is add 4 bricks of cream cheese to my mixing bowl, and I'm gonna put it on the mixer and let it start mixing. Now that the cream cheese has been mixing for a few minutes, I'm just gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl, put it back on the mixer, and I'm gonna add 1 cup of sugar, a splash of vanilla, and I'm gonna just let this go crazy and mix and mix and mix until it is very, very smooth and creamy. I will stop it once in a while just to scrape down the sides of the bowl and then let it keep mixing. And while that's mixing, we're gonna move on to something else. While the cream cheese is mixing, we're gonna get the base ready. So I have these gluten-free graham crackers. You guys know how well my blender works, which is not well at all. So I'm gonna do these all by hand and crush them into graham cracker crumbs. So I'm only gonna do a few at a time, put them in a little bag. I have my rolling pin. I'm gonna smash them and crush them until they are, graham cracker crumbs. Then I'm gonna pour them into a measuring cup just to see how much I have. I'm looking to get about 2 cups out of it. So once I have 2 cups, I'm gonna pour it into a bowl. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of sugar to it and then go get the butter ready for it. So I've melted a 1/4 cup of butter. Sometimes I need a little bit more, sometimes I don't. So I'm just gonna start pouring this into my graham crackers and mixing it until it's all combined. And then I'm gonna take it and put it all into my spring foam pan, which I'm using a 9-inch pan. And I'm gonna pour the crumbs in it and pat it all down. And then we're gonna just set that aside until everything else is ready. All right, so back to the cheesecake. This has been mixing this entire time. So the whole time I was making the crust for the cheesecake, this has been mixing. It is so smooth, it's so silky. I am ready to keep going now. So I'm gonna clean off my mixer, I'm gonna scrape down the bowl, and then I'm going to be adding 4 eggs. But I am gonna add 1 at a time, let it mix for just a couple seconds until it's incorporated, and then I'm gonna stop it, scrape down the sides of the bowl, add the next egg. I'm gonna do this until all 4 of them have been added. So once they are all added, I'm only gonna mix it for literally maybe a minute because you don't want to over mix it once you've added your eggs in. So once it's all mixed and combined, we're moving on. After putting the cheesecake mix in a separate bowl and washing out my mixer bowl, I'm ready to make the pumpkin pie part. So I'm using 1 can of pure pumpkin puree. Boy, that seemed like a lot of peas. Anyway, and then I'm adding 3/4 cups of brown sugar. I'm gonna give this all a quick mix and just until it's combined. Then I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and I'm also adding 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of bourbon. Then I'm gonna let this mix a lot. I want to make sure that bourbon and the maple syrup is really, really well combined so you don't get any little pockets of flavoring. It's all very uniform. I'm now ready to add the seasoning. So, a 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. Mix that all up, add 1/8 teaspoon of salt, let it mix, and then I'm going to wipe down the bowl. I'm going to take 2 eggs, put them in a separate bowl, beat them with a fork just a little bit. Then I'm going to add them into the pumpkin pie filling, give it all a mix, and then I'm going to start adding 1 can of evaporated milk. I'm not going to add the whole can because I also added the maple syrup and the bourbon, which adds liquid. So I think I'm only going to end up leaving like maybe a tablespoon that I didn't use. Just pour the whole can in. It's totally fine. Pour the whole can in. And then just let it mix until it's well combined. So once it's mixed, I'm pouring it into a measuring cup so it's easier to pour into the cheesecake. I was encouraged to give the whole water bath thing one more chance, that maybe I had done something wrong with my last cheesecake. So I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna wrap my cheesecake base in tin foil first, and I'm only gonna wrap it halfway up the pan so that any condensation, any moisture does not drip into the cheesecake. So I'm gonna wrap it in tin foil and then we're gonna start filling it. I'm now ready to start filling our cheesecake base with the actual cheesecake and pumpkin pie filling. So how I'm gonna do this is by just taking scoops of both, and I'm going to like pour some cheesecake in, and then I'm gonna pour in a little bit of pumpkin pie and swirl it all around. And I'm just gonna keep alternating adding the two until the cheesecake pan is full. Alright, so my cheesecake is now ready to go into the water bath. I have a roasting pan here. I'm gonna set the cheesecake in it. Then I'm gonna start adding some water to it. I'm only gonna add, I don't know, maybe an inch or 2. It's not even gonna come up to like halfway up the tin foil. I absolutely do not want it to reach the top of this tin foil, so it's only gonna be like an inch or 2 of water. Then I'm going to put it into my preheated oven. I have it preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's going to bake for exactly 55 minutes. And then I'm going to take it out of this water bath. All right, so the 55 minutes is up. I'm going to put in my other rack. I'm going to take the cheesecake out of the water bath, put it on the rack above just for a few minutes, and then I'm going to put the cheesecake back on the bottom rack and take all the tin foil down from around it just until it cools enough that I can actually take the cheesecake off of the tin foil. And I'm going to leave it in my oven turned off until the oven has completely cooled. Once it's completely cooled, then I'll take the cheesecake out of the oven and put it on the countertop to continue cooling. So as you can see here, I am taking all that tin foil off of the cheesecake. I am making sure that no moisture and no water, gets trapped in here like the last cheesecake I made. So I'm really hoping that this turns out. Benefit of the doubt here. Alright, it's been a couple hours that it's been sitting here on the counter cooling. So I'm going to run a little knife around the edge of the cheesecake just to make sure it's not stuck to the pan and that I can remove it from the pan easily. Oh no, the cheesecake is soggy. So the water bath did not work. I am so disappointed in this. So what I'm gonna do for now, yes, it's all soggy. I'm gonna just put it in the fridge and leave it for a couple more hours and see what happens. While the cheesecake's in the fridge, I'm gonna make the maple bourbon sauce. So I'm using a 1/4 cup of butter. I'm gonna melt that down with 3/4 cups of brown sugar and 2 tablespoons of corn syrup. You can use light or dark, it doesn't matter. And I'm also gonna add in 1 tablespoon of bourbon. I'm gonna mix that all together and melt it all down. Once it's all melted, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup to about 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. I'm using 40% heavy whipping cream. And I'm just gonna slowly mix that in and bring it all to a simmer. Once it's simmering, I'm gonna add probably just a little bit more than a tablespoon of maple syrup. And again, I'm just gonna bring it to a simmer and then turn it off and let it cool down. To help it cool, I'm gonna pop it into the fridge to cool it as quickly as I can so that I can put it over top of the cheesecake.
Okay, so that was a really long day of making everything. I have a few issues, I guess we're gonna say. So you saw me put the cheesecake in a water bath, and as soon as it was done, I took it out of the water bath, I took it out of the tin foil, I put it just on a rack in the oven until it cooled. Even after it cooled, I felt like it was still soggy. I am not sold on the whole water bath idea. I gave it a try again just to see if maybe I did something wrong. I'm gonna make one eventually with no water bath, none, and see how it turns out. So besides that, I did take the cheesecake and I put it in the fridge for several hours. I wanted to make sure it was completely cooled, and I wanted to see if the bottom, because I felt like it was soggy, if maybe that would kind of dry it out and bring it back to normal, I guess. So anyway, it did go into the fridge for quite a few hours. Okay, then I made this like maple bourbon sauce. Now that it's cooled down a little bit, actually quite a bit, it is a little thicker, which is nice. I don't want it super thick, but I also didn't want it so runny and thin that it just wasn't really a nice sauce for on the cheesecake. This is something you don't have to make. I just did it because I thought it would be really nice. You know, it turned out really well. I took my time with it. I mixed things a lot to make sure it was well combined, especially the pumpkin, because I put the bourbon in it. I wanted to make sure that was so well mixed so that that bourbon flavor, you didn't get little pockets of it when you eat this. It would be really well combined. It also, because I used an entire pumpkin recipe and I used an entire cheesecake recipe, I had a lot left over. So I took that and just poured it into like a 9 by 13 inch pan and made just some little like cheesecake squares, which were fantastic because then I got to sample them and I sent them all in to work with my husband. I already know this tastes amazing because of those little cheesecake bars. I had a couple of them actually. So I took some of the sauce, I drizzled it over a piece of cheesecake. I added a little bit of whipped cream around the outside just so that it would look pretty and fancy. As you know, the bottom is also gluten-free. Actually, everything about this cheesecake is gluten-free. And I did that because my friend is gluten-free and this was supposed to be for her, but now I think I'm gonna eat it. So, overall, you know what, for my very last pumpkin recipe, I am so happy with how this turned out. I think it's perfect timing actually because Halloween just ended and you probably have extra pumpkin, but American Thanksgiving is coming up too. So this would be a really good dessert to take to your Thanksgiving dinner. It does take a lot of work. You know, it took me a whole day from like morning to night to get this all done, but it is so worth it. Absolutely worth it. And now I'm finally gonna take that bite. I'm also gonna see if the bottom is really soggy from that water bath. It is fantastic. It is creamy, it is very flavorful. The crust is soggy. It turned out soggy. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of the water bath for a cheesecake. It turned out fantastic, like there's no cracks in the top of it, but I feel like I just don't have any luck when I use it. And this is why, because now my crust is very soggy. So anyway, to each their own. If it works for you every time, then fantastic. If not, try it without it. That's it for pumpkins. We are done with pumpkin season. We are moving on to warm and comforting season. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and that notification bell. Share those videos, please. I appreciate all of you for helping me grow my channel, and I will see you for the next recipe.